the I guess we'll do the respiratory system. So we go into the buccal cavity here. Here's the soft palate. So if I put the probe up here, you would be in the nasopharynx. So remember, this is the region beyond the nasal cavity, where the pharynx starts. Here you would still have your ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelium. And as you make your way down, the region here directly posterior to the buccal cavity is the oropharynx. And then that continues down. Here's the epiglottis. So as I put the probe beyond the epiglottis, now it would be in the laryngopharynx. Right, so the oropharynx and the laryngopharynx will have different epithelia than the nasopharynx. In this case, you have stratified squamous, and to deal with the abrasion of the foodstuff that can also pass through this region. So again, you see the epiglottis there. As you go beyond the epiglottis, you would see the glottis, which is a kind of a slit-like opening that leads to the larynx. So you would go through there. Here's the larynx. Now the whole organ is this. In this case, it got split in half a little bit. But the cartilages that you're seeing here are the thyroid cartilages and the cricoid cartilages. So these are the two larger visible ones that are seen here. As you go beyond that or coddle that, here is the trachea. Right? In the trachea, you have your C-shaped cartilage rings that are keeping the structure open. Ultimately, this is going to end at the bronchi, which are posterior to the heart here. The primary bronchi is split into secondary and tertiary, which supply the lobes and the segments of the lungs. Now remember, in humans, the right lung would have 3 lobes, separated by a horizontal and an oblique fissure. And on the left side, you would have 2 lobes, superior and an inferior lobe, separated by a single oblique fissure. And kind of the last thing to consider as far as the respiratory system is the diaphragm. The large respiratory muscle here, along with the intercostal muscles. So that's the respiratory system. If we consider digestive, again, we're going to come back to the buccal cavity, make our way down through the oropharynx and laryngopharynx, but this time, instead of going to the larynx, we're going to go posterior to the esophagus. And you see the esophagus here. The esophagus is ultimately going to make its way down through the diaphragm and drain into the stomach. So here's the stomach. At the draining point here, this is known as the lower esophageal sphincter or the cardiac sphincter, which are drained into the cardiac region of the stomach. So here's the cardiac region. Just lateral to that, you have the fundus. As you continue caudal to that, you would have the body of the stomach, and then distal to that, the pyloric region. Right? If we look at the inside, you see your rugae. These are the folds that are produced by the mucosa and the submucosa of the stomach when it's empty. Right? And as it fills, this would distend. At the end of the pyloric region, you would have your pyloric sphincter, regulating the passage of chyme from the stomach down into the small intestine. And as we look at the small intestine, the initial segment here, the shortest segment of this is going to be the duodenum, right, followed by then the jejunum, and then ultimately the ileum, which is way back here. You're seeing most of this is ileum. Now the way that we're going to differentiate is we're going to look for the proximity of other organs. Right? For the duodenum, you're looking for the proximity of the stomach, right? Because it's the segment right after the stomach. For the jejunum, it would kind of be just small intestine all over, right? And no proximity to anything else. And then for the ileum, you're looking for proximity to this colon or to the cecum. Right? And then that'll tell you that this is the last segment of that small intestine. Now, generally speaking, when we look at this small intestine, the initial segment is involved with completing digestion for the most part. And then the jejunum and ileum then will be responsible for absorbing all of those nutrients. By the time you enter the cecum, as you pass through the ileocecal valve, this is material that we essentially could not digest, that we're going to remove from the body. Now, if you think about the colon in humans, remember you're starting in the lower right quadrant at the cecum, making your way up the ascending colon, and then the transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum, and then the anus. So that's not going to be the case for the cat. Here you're just going to have the colon. As far as accessory structures for this system, you have the liver with the gallbladder. And the liver is going to produce the bile and then subsequently store that in the gallbladder and then release it from here into the duodenum. And then you're also going to have your pancreas, which is back here. Not this guy here, but the organ behind it, right here. And the pancreas then is responsible for producing many of the secondary digestive enzymes, bicarbonate ion, or buffer, and water. So they all come from this pancreas. Kind of on its own here is the spleen, part of the lymphatic system. And so the spleen is going to be a red blood cell store, platelet store, and then it's also going to contain the white pulp, where you find several different lymphocytes. What is the next system? Oh, the urinary system. Here's the kidney, and here's the ureter from the kidney that leads to the urinary bladder, and it drains at the inferior aspect. And then from the bladder, you have the urethra, and that urethra will then be the exit route for urine from the body. Looks like we didn't dissect the kidney on this. Oh, never mind, there it is. So once we dissect the kidney, you see the cortex, the renal cortex on the very edge, followed by the renal medulla, and then the deepest portion, the renal pelvis. So those are the urinary systems. And then for your reproductive system, you guys have a male, so you have the testis here. Now around the testis, remember the seminiferous tubules are in here where the sperm cells are produced. Just outside of that, though, you have the epididymis, where those sperm cells are stored. This is the spermatocord, which is going to house the blood vessels, the vas deferens, right, the nerves. Here is the inguinal canal, where all of these structures exit the spermatocord and then enter the abdominal cavity. Here's your vas deferens, this little string-like structure here that goes around the urinary bladder, and then you see it here making its way down towards the prostate. Alright, so here's the prostate right there. And you see that enlargement, and you continue on with the urethra, and then eventually making its way out of the glans penis. Okay. So I think those are kind of the major structures here that you want to know.